Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that asks you to listen to it 50 times to unlock a seasonal skin. I'm Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and who are you?
I'm James, aka James04E.
And James, my reference today was in in honor of Overwatch 2, a game that I turned on the other day. Um, so I've been watching some clips. I sent you some clips as well about the state of Overwatch 2
hmm
and I guess how the competitive of Overwatch 2 and some of the other features, they're actually seemingly listening to the community and changing a bunch of things, making it more transparent about your competitive ranks, adding a bunch of other stuff, adding some extra competitive rewards, and adding a newer rank, and also doing a full rank reset and removing a lot of limitations for players, so you can play with anyone of any rank. It seems, um, and they're also adding matchmaking for like that. That'll basically detect if you're like a solo player or if you're playing in a group or if you're playing in a group of like mixed MR or whatever. So that seems cool. Do you have any thoughts on that as someone who played Overwatch, just the Halloween events apparently recently?
Good.
Good, yeah. Um, I don't even really play competitive modes in Overwatch 2. I
Yeah,
kind of want to.
I haven't played competitive in a while.
I kind of only want to get the skins. I
hmm
really don't care about the competitiveness of it. I would like the skins, so I'm tempted.
hmm
Um, but I will say, also one of the biggest things that got me excited about Overwatch 2 again is they mentioned they're going to look at revamping battle passes and changing it. And Overwatch 2 is the only community that's like, please add loot boxes back. We love loot boxes. And you know what? They kind of were fun. I think they could have some sort of surprise mechanic TM add it to the battle pass again if they don't make it
Damn.
disgusting. But the one thing they said that was got me actually wanting to play the game again is they are looking into making it so that you can pick which legendary, whatever super cool mythic
Mythic.
skin you get.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'd heard about that.
yeah, so you'll be able to receive all the prior battle pass skins. It seems,
hmm
which is good and doesn't and like I think companies are realizing that FOMO design is it works for a little bit, and then you also have a backlog of like 100 skins that no one can use. Um, and also like it's kind of like for some people it works. Like I need to play this, and for some people, if you miss out on a skin, then you just don't want to play the game. It's like I can never be complete, so it doesn't
Well,
work.
I also think part of it is that people are 100% willing to pay for a skin that they missed.
Yeah, and I think they should just I don't know how they're going to implement it, but I think paying for a battle pass and then being able to choose whichever battle pass you want to be leveling up at any time is I think very fair. Like
I don't think
when
that's how they're doing it. I think it's just when you get the mythic skin, you can just select which one you want.
yeah, I also don't think that's how they're going to do it. I mean, I think they're still deciding, but even being able to select which mythic skin you want is a good step forward in terms of like, oh, now I don't feel bad that I missed this event.
hmm
Anyway, yeah, so I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Overwatch 2 because I haven't actually played a match yet. I've just been playing the stupid arcade mode they've had right now because there's a skin. Um I'm assuming it's K-pop. I don't even know. It's some sort of musical thing where all of
Oh,
the I
the
assume
the
it is
Le
K-pop,
Seraphim
right?
thing.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah, it's
what's going
K-pop.
on. Yeah, so it is probably one of the most like garbage arcade modes of all time. And I'm only saying that because uh the requirements to get the rewards are so obnoxiously like large that you need to play it a lot. Um so the game mode is basically it's a 3v3. You're locked to Diva, Sombra, Kiriko, and Tracer. Yeah, and Tracer. You're locked to those characters, and you need to do a 3v3 where there's like ticket stations that drop, and you have to like collect tickets and then put them on a point. It's kind of like Kill Confirmed, sort of, with like a deposit station. Have you played it at all?
No, I haven't.
Um, it's fine, I guess. The problem is the way you get the skin, you need to complete like I think 8 challenges or something, but the challenges are play the game, complete a game 5 times, complete a game 10 times, and then it goes all the way up to like 50 times or something like that. So it's like
Hmm.
play 50 plus matches. And if you win, you get a double count it. So it's like you get 2 clears or whatever. But
Hmm.
you basically need to play 50 something matches of this game mode. And there's it's so one-sided. Like your team is either going to stomp or be stomped, and if you start losing, everyone just gives up because who cares? They just want to be done. Like no one's having fun. um so it's just kind of the flaw of some of these arcade events where they force you to play it 100 times and no one cares, and they just want to get it as done as quick as possible. um so yeah, that's my experience so far with Overwatch 2, booting it up again. I did buy the battle
Damn.
pass though because I'm a loser.
Because
um
I'm a loser.
it was $10, and it's the Halloween spooky battle pass, and every skin is like a Halloween costume. And I'm like, you know what? That's actually like decent value if I complete the battle pass because I like every
Hmm.
skin in the battle pass. There's like a Lucio ghost skin. It's cool.
Yeah.
There, yeah. So I've committed to playing that game, but I'm a little sad right now because I'm stuck in the K-pop hell that is that arcade
Damn.
mode. Um, James, do you have any
Unfratchinate.
interest in returning to Overwatch 2?
Not that much,
Is
honestly.
there anything that they could do that would make you interested in playing it again?
Uh, anything that they would do would fundamentally make it a different game.
Okay, so you're like it has to basically become Apex. It just needs to be like a it just changed. The game needs to just be you turn on the game, it's the EXE is Apex. You're like, yeah, I'll
Yeah, I
play
don't know. I
this.
mean, I guess I understand why they do it, but I'm just not crazy about like this mid game character swapping. Because
Yeah,
like
I mean that's fair.
my thing is it just creates these like really weird scenarios like people switch to one thing, so it's like you have to switch to another thing, and it also means that like they can't get rid of it because it's like it's baked into the game's design. Like the maps are designed for it and stuff like that. So it's
Hmm.
like one point you can play like Reinhardt, but the other point you have to play like a dive tank or something. Like I don't necessarily mind that part. I think it's mostly the quantity of swapping you have to do sometimes can be kind of annoying.
I think the big problem is that you couldn't. I don't think you could have an Overwatch as it is right now with locked roles because you could just have a team that's just garbage. Like you could just have a comp that you just can't win basically.
I mean, to be fair, people do that anyway, but yeah, they wouldn't have a chance to switch if you managed to somehow give them a reason mid game.
But I mean, I'm saying from a perspective of just vaguely casually playing quick play because I don't know the idea of a competitive game in which I need to get on a mic and talk to people and try very hard does not appeal to me at all as like not my game style.
Hmm.
Um, and also I don't know, just like there's definitely the element of like you want to unwind, put on like a couple matches, unwind in a game, and just
Hmm.
being like dialed in and just being like, guys, Farrah's in there above over there. I mean, even Overwatch, at least it's not that bad. Like CS:GO, we play that the call outs and like what you don't know, squeaky cat door on the backward treadmill map. I don't know. It's like that was a terrible fake example, but
Squeaky cat door.
I don't want to. I don't know. It's not for me. The games are for other people. They're not for me.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, James, what have you been up to? What have you been up to in your week?
So I finished the Cyberpunk DLC, so I could finally get that game off of my SSD because it
Oh
was
God,
eating all of my space.
yeah, I know the feeling of that. I haven't
Yeah.
beaten that yet, and I'm actually going through my computer right now and just trying to finish games that I have installed that I have maybe like
hmm
2 hours left in, but I just haven't played.
Yeah. So what I have an external hard drive that I use for work, but I also put lots of my single player games on it and stuff. But since Cyberpunk doesn't have it only they say it only supports SSDs, which technically isn't true. But what it really means is they're not testing the game on SSD anymore. So like, or they're not testing it on regular hard drives anymore. So like, they could release something that breaks the functionality, and they wouldn't do anything about it really, which is
Mhm,
fair. Because like I mean honestly, if you look at the game, it's definitely meant to be played on an SSD. I don't think
mhm.
there's too much debate there. But yeah, so I had to have it on my SSD. I was like 80 gigs down, and so I was just like this week I was like, damn, I just need to finish this DLC, get the new ending, and just call it quits. Give it a rest. Give my SSD some room to breathe.
Yeah. That is kind of a weird like state that we live in terms of games where games are just so big now, and I guess there is luckily storage. It is getting easier to get a lot more storage,
Yeah.
um, but still, games don't have to be like 500 gigs like Call of Duty games.
Oh my god,
Just
yeah.
these
I'm never downloading a
crazy
Call of Duty game just because of how that stuff works.
HD uncompressed 5K skins for their like weed gun. It takes up 20 gigs, just the gun model file.
Yeah.
Um, but so are you going to cave and buy the new Call of Duty? This
No.
is a this okay. I could see that. That's a determined no at
Yeah,
first.
I haven't actually bought a Call of Duty game since Modern Warfare 2019, and before that, the last one I willingly bought was Black Ops 3.
See, I hate to say it, but uh, our friend group is probably going to be making that purchase.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm fully aware.
and I don't want to pay $70 for this game, but it is almost like a sporting event or some sort of concert where this is the only time I would ever play it is when it launches or like around that window and when all of my friends are playing it. It now is the only time I would ever play this.
Yeah.
And you know what? A Call of Duty game every like couple of years getting in there, like maybe skip one or whatever. It's pretty fun. It's fun to play. It's fun to just run around and shoot things, turn your brain
Yeah.
off. I really wish I didn't have to pay $70 to turn my brain off. Uh,
Man.
but I don't know. I could play Warzone. I could play
Oh
an
no.
as a BR, my favorite genre of game, running around map and looking for attachments. TM.
Man.
Um,
Yeah, Warzone is one of the games of all time for sure.
I haven't played. I know nothing about Warzone besides they drop like the wackiest Scooby Doo ass skins every every couple of months.
Yeah,
There's like
I'm not gonna
guys
lie, that Skeletor skin, that was a fever dream.
they just add like guys writing Slender Man to the game. We're just dropping in, just like we're adding Big Al from Al's Toy Barn. He's in the game. We
God.
put him in, fully voiced. He's got the Al execution where he does the Woody's Roundup kick. It's sick.
God.
Um, it is, that game is why I only see like screenshots of, or I just see those announcements. And also, can you clarify this for me? Do you know what this is? Is is Modern Warfare 2 the current version of Modern Warfare 2 going to like cross over into being like Modern Warfare 3, which is Modern Warfare 3, the new one is the newest game coming out, correct?
Yeah.
Now, on the launcher, I think Steam just lists it as Call of Duty. Like, go on Steam and type in Call of Duty. It just lists all three games under Call of Duty. So I don't know what that means. It's like Call of Duty HQ thing. Like, look, if you look at it, it's just listing it
Yeah,
as one thing.
yeah. I have
So
no idea. That whole situation is a mess.
yeah, it's like I genuinely don't understand what that means. And like here, there's like a thing on the Steam page, like click to play Warzone for free, and then pre-purchase Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for $70, or pay $100 for the Vault Edition TM. Um, but I don't. I think that maybe they're doing this to get reviews for all time, but they're mixed, so it's like kind of bad. Maybe they're expecting the third game to be terrible on launch, and people will review bomb it. I don't know what it makes it more confusing.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if the content from Modern Warfare 2 and War is the content in Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone shared.
I believe so.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I like that. So, well, actually, I'll Google it right now. Will Modern Warfare 3 have MW2 skins? Let's see. Will your skins be able to transfer from MW2 to MW3? You will be able to transfer your skins from MW2 and Warzone. Okay, so it's a game as a so now it's they already come out every year, but now this is the question. That's only on these are Infinity Ward games, right? Not the other studio, Treyarch or whatever. Are they still making them? I don't know. Um,
Uh, yeah, they still have the other studios working. I'm not really sure why they released two Modern Warfare games in a row.
yeah, I don't. So I don't really know. It's pretty much like season two. It's like almost like season two of Modern Warfare 2, and they're just re-releasing it. Um, I don't know. It's very strange. I don't know. I don't. Well, but like my question now would be, would anything from those, like, I assume it's Treyarch that used to be who made the Black Ops and all those. Will anything from those games transfer into these games? So if not, then there's like two rival games going on at the same time, and then like which version do you play? It's so confusing. But
Hmm.
I will spend $70 on this game so I can not play as Snoop Dogg because I missed my opportunity to buy that um, skin in Modern Warfare 2. Incredible. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I talk about Call of Duty, it's just it just sounds like a fever dream.
You just did like the ominous mic bang of bad feelings.
Wait, I actually didn't even bang my mic. What happened?
I don't. I
I
heard
didn't
like a
even move.
bell. I don't know. I think I was on you. I heard it through your mic. I heard like a bell tone. It sounded like someone rang a bell at like a tower to alert people that we should move on from Call of Duty talk.
Damn.
So did you enjoy, without spoilers, because I'm going to be playing the Cyberpunk DLC as well? Did you enjoy it? Did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, I think it was good. Uh, I think I think it was a little stronger at the start than it was at the end, but
Okay.
not by a lot. I think there's lots of I think the characters are really cool because they're all pretty complex. Like, I think as far as characters put into expansions of like RPGs, they're definitely some of the ones I've liked more.
Mhm.
Um, I think that the endings are very good as well. Lots of how do I describe this? I think they're all a little like bittersweet, which I think is really good and very fitting for the type of story that Cyberpunk is.
Mhm.
Um, there's not like a necessarily a morally correct one.
Mhm.
It's very dependent on like how much like you like the characters yourself and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think they're I guess I was a little expecting a little bit more like what is it, like set pieces, but I also think the specific decisions I made led to a little less like combat and boss fights because I heard that there was a boss fight that I technically skipped, I guess.
Hmm.
Not that I skipped it, but it was like one decision where like see there was a boss fight or like just something different happens.
Wow, that's weird. Interesting.
Which I was a little confused because I was like, wait, that's it. That was a little anticlimactic. But then I watched the other decision. And I'm like, okay, I kind of understand what they're going for because it's not
Hmm.
meant to be as like I guess as flashy as normal cyberpunk because it's more of like a spy thriller as they've marketed it.
Hmm. Where would you rank it in terms of do you have like any games that you have a DLC that you love from like an expansion or DLC that you actually really enjoy?
Um, I think pretty much every Borderlands DLC is really good.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I would say they kind of started that massive DLC wave with their first DLC in Borderlands 1 was Zombie Island of Dr.
yeah,
Zed or Ned or whatever, right?
yeah,
Um Weird that PS3 was really the time of like the wacky alternative universe zombie game DLC.
hmm
Like that game and also Red Dead Redemption's like Undead Nightmare was like a huge expansion that everyone seemed to really love.
yeah. Zombies were really big at that time.
Yeah, well, I know zombies were big at the time, but like it's
Yeah,
weird that the zombie spin-off expansion was kind of a thing.
yeah.
Um
Yeah, I think the idea is everybody kind of wanted to do their own like little zombie alternate universe because like Call of Duty was doing it. It just sounded fun, and it was fun to be fair.
mhm. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because I kind of want to talk about DLC slash expansions for games, because honestly, I seem to fall off very hard on DLC, and I always seem to kind of not enjoy it, because it always feels a little tacked on to me, because usually it comes after the main game, and I don't necessarily like and they can be pretty short. They can be like 4 hours of extra content that's like kind of not as good as the main game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think DLCs are at their best when they like either they smoothly fit into the story like at some point, not necessarily just after, or it's meant to be like its own entirely separate thing and doesn't necessarily acknowledge the main story.
Yeah, I think I prefer like a definitive edition of a game where they just add extra stuff throughout rather
Hmm
than a DLC. The problem with that is a lot of the times it has to be a game that you ended up not playing and then you play the definitive for the first time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have a thing like I'm kind of facing in Persona right now. I'm playing Persona 5. I am almost done with it. It's kind of getting absurd at this point. I'm 125 hours in. I'm almost done.
hmm
Um, and the thing about this game is I've now hit the point where I am. So they do weave in. Are you familiar with how the Persona games release at all?
Release how they release, not really.
Okay, so the Persona games. I think Persona 5 was Persona 5 a PS3 game originally? Yes. Okay, so Persona or wait, was it on PS2? Okay, Persona. I might be lying. I got to fact
I
check
don't know.
this.
I, I just know it was on PS4.
Okay, wait, no. I think people are memeing about Persona because there is a weird thing that like certain games. All right, so it was on PS3 and then it was
hmm
on PS4 and I guess there's a PS5 version of it because it's Royale whatever. Okay, so it was originally I believe on PS5 or sorry, PS3. So
hmm
when those games come out, right? It's Persona 5 nothing no subtitle.
Yeah.
And then it looks like Persona 5 even like the basic version of it was on PS4. And then they go, okay, a couple years later they do, okay, Persona 5, we had a subtitle, Royal. Now there's more content, and they do that with every Persona game. It's like they did that with Persona 4. It was a PS2 game, and then it was a Vita port. Um, and they add a bunch of extra content. Now,
Hmm.
the extra content is usually kind of garb. Like they'll add an extra character that you can like romance usually, and that
Hmm.
extra character is very forced into the story, and usually kind of lame and bad. But you like have to be friends with that character to get the true ending TM in these games. And they're also, it's kind of like Dark Souls where you need to look up a guide to make sure you're friends with certain people to get the true ending TM. And if you aren't friends
Hmm.
with those people, you can't, and you're locked out of a ending when you're 80 hours into a game. So yeah,
Yeah,
you
get shit
should
on.
look those up. Yeah. So now I looked them up. I did everything, and I am now hitting the point of the actual end game expansion content. And it's
Hmm.
fine, but it's like I'm looking at my watch every 5 seconds basically when I'm playing this game. And I'm like, you know what? I really was invested, but I kind of really want to see the ending of this game now. I mean, I'm now going through the. I'm doing the gameplay loop dungeon crawl for another 10 hours. I'm pretty okay with this. I'm pretty okay. And it's a JRPG too, so it's like, okay, I'm really wrapping it up here. Like, there's only
Yeah.
so much friendship we can have in this game. But it's getting there. I don't know. These
Hmm.
games, it's a lot of time to spend in all these games. Um, but they're the third game in the series, the infamous third game, which is has no definitive way to play it at the moment, is getting a remake. It got remastered recently, but it's getting a remake soon.
Damn.
So, and that may not even be the definitive way to play it. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, James, do you have any other like DLC that you really like in a game, like expansion? I'm thinking more like an expansion
Um.
story.
Hmm. Let me
You
think.
know,
I need to look through my library.
I know Skyrim had two DLCs that people seemed to enjoy.
I played the first one and I got the second one, but I never ended up playing it.
Yeah, I did the vampire one, and I thought it was okay. I mean, you get like some weird stuff.
Mm,
I think Bethesda game DLC is usually kind of not great. Um,
yeah.
it always seems so out of pocket and weird compared to the base game. Although I think people like Oblivion's Shivering Isles or whatever. I don't think
Hmm.
I've really played that. Um, but yeah, like I don't know the expansion content. I was thinking like Dark Souls One had a pretty cool DLC.
Hmm.
Um, just because it's like it's in the Prepare to Die edition. It's like baked into every release of Dark Souls One now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much like extending of the base game. But I think that's a nice little chunk. It doesn't outstay its welcome. Um, it's some good challenges and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Now I
but
remember the Doom Eternal DLC. I actually never finished it. I played like the first part, but not the second one. But the first part was really cool. I think it's pretty fun.
yeah, I played Doom 2016, but I haven't played Eternal yet. I forgot Doom Eternal got DLC.
Yeah, it was kind of. It's not that it was forgettable, and it's not even that they just didn't market it. It's kind of like I don't know. It wasn't. It isn't a very. I guess it's not like a narrative game. So like people see Doom DLC and they're like, oh, it's just it's like it's more Doom.
Hmm.
And then, the people that played Doom just kind of played it, and people who didn't like were like, okay, Doom.
Yeah, I forgot that like even got. Did it get multiple DLC or was it just
It
one?
was a 2-part DLC.
Oh wow, yeah, no, completely passed over me.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to reinstall that game someday and play that.
Yeah, and play through it. Oh man, yeah, no those games I played Doom 2016 fairly recently, and it's so funny. I'm like playing these games that everyone knows are good, but I'll get around to them like 5 years after they release, and I'll be like, oh, this was really good.
Hmm.
Um, which can be a benefit sometimes when you're playing a series and you're like, you get really into it, and then the next game is coming out. That happens sometimes. Like, oh, I'm like, oh wow. Um,
Yeah.
but not so much when you get into the God of War remake and it comes out on PC, and Ragnarok is slated to come to PC in like 4 years or something. It's like
Yeah.
I I'm glad that companies are putting their games on PC. Uh, it is a little silly how long they're taking to put some of them on. Just be like for purposes of, I can see why if they want to develop a different version, if they want to take like a year, but the extra years are just for exclusivity, like just to have like, oh, buy a PS5. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and it hurts, with these games. I want to play them. Um, I do think we're gonna live in a world where one day we get to play some game we wouldn't think of on PC, just re-releases of these obscure games, or like one day maybe we'll see a Nintendo game on PC. We'll play like Mario Galaxy, because I mean technically for other markets outside of the US, they do have like an Nvidia Shield version of Mario Galaxy or something. Um,
Hmm.
so that's kind of wild, but yeah, I don't know. So, James, besides Cyberpunk, have you played any other games this week? Or you want to talk about any gaming news?
Trying to think, what else have I played? Nothing new really. The Remnant 2 DLC was announced this week. It's gonna be
Oh,
coming out
cool.
on November 14th. It was kind of interesting because they did like a whole blog about like that this is what the DLC is our like approach, and what they're doing is it's effectively an expansion on a new version of an area, because the Remnant areas, they all have like uh different like I guess like versions, because like the story can have variants. Like you can get
Hmm.
like this quest line in one playthrough and a different quest line in another. Um, and so the idea is just, so you're on a world and you have a chance to roll a new quest line now that you have the DLC. You can also specifically select it in adventure mode if you just want to play the DLC. But yeah, they were saying that all their expansions are going to be these like 3 to 5 hour new quest lines, and they're going to add like, obviously, it's going to be like new bosses, new weapons, and stuff like that. But it's kind of interesting because all the worlds, I think, they were a lot more fleshed out than in Remnant One, and they all had like just a little bit of room for something else. So I think it's a kind of cool approach to it. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of like I mean, it seems like they did that in the first game where they
yeah,
expanded that one area. I think that's kind of cool, and like we were talking about earlier, where it's now something you'll actually play on a playthrough rather than beat the whole game. Then here's like an extra area.
yeah.
Um,
I think the one gripe I have with that model is if the is cases where the base story feels a little unfinished because of it.
mhm.
So the world they do it for, it's not necessarily that it felt unfinished, like it felt like a complete world, but there's this whole narrative around like a one true king, and like there were a bunch of like imposter kings, and like
Mhm.
you had to fight one of them for one of the bosses, and like there was a whole council talking about like finding out who the imposter was and stuff like that. Literally just playing Among Us, but you never found out who the real king was. And it felt a little odd, I guess, because it was like there wasn't like there was a conclusion in the sense that like you killed the imposter, but the implication is that both of the people are imposters, because you literally decide who you want to kill, and then you come back and say like, yeah guys, I killed the imposter, and they're like, good job. So yeah, apparently the DLC is supposed to like have the actual king. Yeah, I
Well,
mean it's cool. I just kind of wish that there was a little more like, at the very least, I wish they directly said like, yeah, you killed the imposter, but you don't know where the real king is, or something like that. They just kind of didn't talk about the real king very much.
it's so funny that like the Remnant games, at least from playing the first game, they go between like being pretty fun and being like terrible.
Hmm.
Like like I don't know. There's something mechanically sometimes, or like just like the story. It's like, oh, this is interesting, or it was just like terrible.
Oh, I
Um,
actually another interesting thing about the DLC that they talked about in like their blog post. They basically admitted like, yeah, our writing isn't really our strong suit. So like they said they're only gonna the main area in all the DLCs is only gonna have one variant. So everybody has
hmm,
like the same experience, so they can make the writing like better.
I think that's
Which,
fair.
yeah, it was interesting. You don't see people admit that very often.
It's just that we have trouble with final bosses and writing. All of what's funny is I was looking up. This isn't really spoilers for any of the Remnant games. I guess this is enjoyment spoilers. But
Hmm.
I was looking up why does the Remnant One boss and or the DLC boss suck so bad on Reddit, and I was reading posts, and then I realized that I was reading posts for Remnant Two. So it seems like the final boss for all of these games is just
Okay,
always
so
terrible.
to be fair, the Remnant 2 boss is actually good, but it's really hard. So
Uh
lots of
huh.
people like cope by saying it's bad because the main thing about the boss is he has what I'll refer to as like an EDM phase where it's a bunch of like lights going off and it's supposed to be false cues
Hmm.
like because he uses like illusions and stuff like that and you're supposed to basically you determine which one is real by audio cues because it'll be like a pinging sound when the real one's
Hmm.
about to attack and lots of people didn't know that. So they were fighting this boss, and they're like, "I don't know which one's to dodge. What the hell? This is a horrible boss." And then
I was
every
yeah.
time it'd be somebody in comments saying, "Turn on your audio."
Yeah, turn off music, stop listening to Papa Roach Last Resort on loop as you do when you play this game. Um no, but still like it I don't know why is the I don't understand why there's like part of it is like the rest of the game is like piss easy for the
Hmm.
most part, and then the final boss is not usually hard, it's just obnoxious for no reason.
Yeah,
Like the final boss just has like dumb mechanics a lot of the times, and you have to like watch cutscenes and run through like areas. It's like not ideal for refighting. It's like
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's not. It doesn't warrant. All right, minor spoiler or spoilers for Remnant One's DLC final boss. One of the DLCs. So there's a part in the final boss where the boss you kill the boss and it goes into another form, and they give you a gun, and they replace your current gun with a gun that they give you. And in any normal game, this signifies okay, I technically have beaten the boss. They gave me a gun. This is like the flex moment. This is where you get to like be OP and you kill the boss because they gave me a special gun. Um, the gun is like garbage. At least like it feels garbage. I'm sure it's good and you can spec into it or whatever. I think the only reason they gave you the gun there is because that final boss is physically impossible to kill with like melee or like shotgun. I mean, I think you can do it, but it's like unfair. They're like, okay, shit. What if you were only doing melee build? We got to give them a gun so they can maybe finish the boss. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what it felt
I
like to me.
can't remember. I think that you had to do something with the gun to beat the boss, but I don't quite
No, you
remember.
don't because you can refight the boss and
Or
without the gun.
or
It just
rather,
gives you
I
it at
think
that
that it makes
moment.
it. I think it makes it easier because I think there's something you're supposed to
Not
choose with it, but
really.
I don't remember.
Um, I mean, you could. I think in that moment, unequip the gun and re-equip your current gun. But like, I was like, oh, cool. We're gonna have a really cool like we're gonna kill it moment because we just struggled through this part. But no, it's just kind of like bad, and then you die.
Hmm.
I don't know. Those games are wacky. I think they're meant for like oh, this is the point where you go grind for 47 hours and then come back here and flex. Like, and I don't think, to be honest, I don't think Remnant has enough content that I would want to play that game 100 times in a row. Like that seems like one of those games that people can enjoy that and be like, I don't know, like almost like a comfort game where it's like I'm gonna just do like 15 playthroughs of Remnant, but like
Hmm.
I I don't think it's that fun. I think it's fun once to go through, but I don't think it's like Dark Souls where I'm like, I want to play with a stick. I want to go through the whole game with a stick.
Damn.
I don't know. I'm a Remnant hater. I'm sorry. I'll play two at some point though, but I'm a hater. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's what people feel about Dark Souls when they play Dark Souls. They're like, yeah, it's just kind of lame.
Yeah,
Dark Souls
mayhaps.
detractors. Can we talk about real quick? Like, what was the first Souls game you played?
First one I played was Dark Souls 3.
Okay, that's a pretty good entry point, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of people, for some reason, I've heard recommend people to start with two, which is just a. I think it's like a terrible take.
yeah,
I
that
don't
sounds pretty bad.
understand. There's so many people. They're the two is like it's kind of easy, whatever. You'll ease into it. It's like no, two is like rough. That game is it's not even like difficult. It's a no. It's like obnoxious mechanics.
Yeah, I
Even
think I think out of all the,
scholars.
I think out of all the FromSoft Souls games, you probably need to start with either one or three.
Yeah, one or
Maybe
three is
Elden Ring.
fine.
I'm not 100% sure. I
Oh,
don't know what that's like for
you
first
could
timer.
definitely play Elden Ring. I mean, it would actually probably be harder to play the other games after Elden Ring,
Yeah,
but yeah. And or start Trial by Fire and play Bloodborne.
man.
Um, but yeah, no, like I don't know, like Dark Souls 2 and like I played a ton of Dark Souls 2 and Scholars and I enjoyed the multiplayer. Like I enjoyed it when it came out,
Hmm.
but I've played it recently. I've gone back to it and it's just really genuinely is not that fun to play.
Yeah.
Um there's just a lot of things in that game that Dark Souls 1 is pretty fair. Dark Souls 1 is pretty easy honestly now if you know what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um it feels like a fair challenge. I mean, maybe it's a little too easy. Like 3 honestly feels more like a fair challenge too. Um 2 is just like, okay, we're going to spawn in like people like to grind to level up here. We're going to stop spawning
Oh
enemies.
my god.
It's like okay, I mean, whatever. People like to do it's like let's take things people enjoy and let's just remove or make them more difficult. Like people like to invade people, so let's like not have a full invasion item, so they have to go like do the Coliseum minigame. Maybe that's because they realized no one played those in the other games and they wanted to have them have population.
Maybe.
Um, but it sucks. Like it's so annoying. I don't know. I don't know about Dark Souls 2. We don't need to rant more about Dark Souls 2. I rant enough about it. Send me
Ye
hate at hyep at
Dark
gmail.com.
Souls 2 bad.
That is the hyep podcast at gmail.com. And honestly, what's funny is like, if given the choice out of like random games and Dark Souls 2, I mean, I probably would still play Dark Souls 2. Like, if it's not a bad game. It's just like, if I could pick any other Souls game, I would play that instead.
Hmm.
But I mean, still, if the only Souls game I had to play and I was feeling like I wanted to play a Dark Souls game, I would happily play Dark Souls 2. It's just
Hmm.
not ideal. Um, yeah. All right. Anyway, maybe we should get into some questions, James. How about that?
Sure.
I'm going to ask you a scintillating. That's a word. Do you want me to ask you a question? My brain's not working tonight.
Sure.
All
Ask
right.
me a scintillating question.
I'm gonna ask you a question. And you bet. Oh God. Oh, how about favorite video game mod? That's
Ooh.
interesting.
Hmm.
Video game mod. Hmm.
Video game mod.
I don't even know how you did strike through, so I'm just gonna delete this question from the docket.
Yeah,
Um.
that's a hard one because like I don't remember individual mods very well. I usually like get a lot if I'm gonna be modding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's really hard. I'm trying to think of the games that I have had mods for. So like there was Risk of Rain 2, Slay the Spire. Ooh, actually, yeah. I think probably the Slay the Spire Kratos mod. Um,
That's cool.
so it wasn't necessarily my favorite because it was good, but it was just very goofy because they just stuffed Kratos' model in there, and all the
Like 3D
cards,
model.
yeah, and all the cards were like models from the game or from the God of War games, and As far as I know, from what I played, the deck is kind of shit.
Are you saying it's a person who jammed a 3D model of Kratos into a card game didn't have amazing card balancing abilities?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah. So I just kind of I played it, and everything was like, yeah, you do a regular amount of damage, but it hurts you because you're angry, and it's like, what? What do you mean it hurts me because I'm angry? Stop.
I'm
Oh
trying to
man.
think of games that like you can't live without the mod. I mean, honorable mentions go to Gary's mod because that game's all about modding and stuff. And maybe I'll talk about
Yeah.
some mods from that are memorable. But
And
um,
Dark RP was memorable.
yeah, Dark RP, the game
God.
mode. I spent many an hour playing Dark RP. And Gary's mod, if you're not familiar with Dark RP, it's like this kind of like garbage roleplay game mode that is just very fun to run around and it's a game mode where you have guns, and if you shoot someone, a 12-year-old will yell at you and an admin will come and kick you off the server. And you spend hours doing that. um Also, actually, big ups to Gmod Theater when that first came out on Gary's mod. There was one map that had the theater, and basically you could play YouTube videos with the population of the server, and all you would queue them up and watch them together. And I had some of my like fondest memories from that game in that server. Um, yeah, there's a lot of Garry's Mod stuff, but I was thinking of like Dark Souls One, DS fix, which basically made the game playable. Um, Dark Souls One on PC launched. It was a pretty bad port, and it was locked to 30 FPS, and the frame rate was tied to the physics in the game.
Yeah, the
Um,
Dark Souls classic.
but by changing some things, you're able to get the game to run at 60, and it's mostly fine. But that was a necessary mod for that game. Um, there's a couple of those kind of mods that like whenever you play a game you like need to install it kind of thing. I think those are
Yeah.
the best mods that fix like a lot of issues. Shows to Better Males of Skyrim mod, a mod that adds a bunch of hairstyles to the characters, and it had a bunch of different enhancements, but also in the original versions of the mod, it just added dongs to everyone, just monster dongs. Uh, so you'd be running around, you're like, oh, I love my Sephiroth hair, and then you just see a werewolf with like a 20-foot dong, and yeah, that used to be. So then they added an option in later releases to not have any of the nudity, that just have the other enhancements. But for a while, I had a friend who would he had the Better Males of Skyrim mod, and he's like, "No, I swear it's for the hair and for like the muscles or whatever." And
Oh
it just so
no,
happens to add 40-foot dongs to my Skyrim game.
man.
So that's a classic. Apache Sky Hair, I think is how it was pronounced. Shoutouts to that mod for Skyrim. It added a bunch of Sims haircuts and from other games to the game at one point. That was kind of fun. Um, Shoutouts to all the other mods that I'm not going to mention for Skyrim that I know the names of and acronyms for, but we don't want to mention them here. Um, James, what is the did you have any mod experiences with Skyrim that are like what is like the most
Um,
like degen mod you've installed in Skyrim?
I don't know. I think I just did some pretty normal stuff
Did you
because
install all right, you don't have to answer it. Did you install any degen mods into
no, I
Skyrim?
don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have too much experience modding Skyrim because so I initially played it on Xbox, and then
Uh-huh.
later I played it on PC. Um,
Mhm.
When I was playing it on PC, I was just kind of I don't even think I really finished leveling my. I don't even think I like completed my build or anything like that. But yeah, I was just kind of goofing around with some mods just because I had never gotten to do it.
Mhm.
I think that was
I
actually my first
was
time. I think that was my first time downloading mods for anything.
yeah, through Nexus.
Hmm.
I was very mod crazy. I would download like hundreds of mods. I'd be like, Game of Thrones capes mod, like
Oh god.
more lore accurate weapons, and it would just add like silver knife, silver knife 2, and it's like, wow, this is really adding a lot to my game experience. Um, many mods. Um, yeah. Then I think I went too far one time. I just added too many mods. Now I'm like, I never want to add mods ever in any game ever. Basically, I just don't care.
Hmm.
They're usually bad. Except, you know what? We neglected to mention Minecraft and how Minecraft has some of the best mods that basically just are game modes. And like I think I played
Hmm.
Skyblock for a while on stream. Maybe I should play that again. Although uh, the problem with playing those Minecraft things, I didn't grow up with Skyblock or Sky Factory. I think it was Sky Factory is what I was playing,
Hmm.
and the kids, the literal children who would watch the streams that I was doing, would know everything about the game, and I would not. And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, make a flux capacitor with the sticks and stuff." I'm like, I don't know how to do that. It's a lot. Like you need to be consuming that content. You have to watch like a 4,000 part playthrough of the game to know everything.
Damn.
Yeah. Has there ever been a game that you've bounced off of because it's so like there's too many things? Like it's like have you ever met a game in which you have interest in playing it, but there's just too many mechanics? Like you need to watch like a 100 part tutorial to even play the game.
Probably Destiny and Warframe.
Okay.
And I mean Destiny 1, by the way,
What was
not
Destiny
2.
1? I mean, not what was it the game? Like what was about it that needed a lot of like guides?
It's been a while. I just think it's, I remember getting loot, certain loot in that game was just so bizarre. Like it was just really hard to figure out, and like there was way too much grinding. You needed to know exactly like where to grind, and then so I think one guide said like, yeah, try multiplayer, and then I ran into people that just had better guns than me. I'm like, oh well, I guess back to grinding. And the funny thing is, I had initially gotten Destiny because I'm like, oh, it's made by Bungie. I loved Halo multiplayer. Certainly, I can get a similar experience. And I just never ended up having fun in the multiplayer because I never had good stuff.
So I only had experience with Destiny 2 around launch and like the first DLC, and the multiplayer was fun. But it was kind of weird though having like, yeah, you could just have a gun that's outclassed completely. Like there was metas like the Better Devils, and there was some like 3 burst like assault rifle that I forget what it was called, and it was just the best gun for a while, and like you just
Hmm.
had to use it. Um, it is weird in a game like that where it's like having PvP with loot that is. I think honestly, any MMO that isn't PvP focused and has loot, it's just always impossible to balance for PvP. Like you have to have two
Yeah,
separate systems. Like you need to have two separate stat systems for each system to even make it work. Like you cannot have loot affect your PvP unless it's like a Albion Online kind of game where everything is based. You need a game where everything is based around like the PvE is just to gear you up to do the PvP. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Hmm.
I was thinking the poster child for that type of game is Dwarf Fortress, a game that I always want to get into, and now it's actually more accessible than it ever has been because it's on Steam.
Hmm.
Have you ever tried to get into Dwarf Fortress? Do you know what Dwarf Fortress is?
No, not really.
So you might actually really like it. It's on Steam now, but it's been free forever. It's like a passion project of a guy and his brother, I think, or just two people, or just a
Hmm.
guy. It's a game that uses like it used ASCII art, and it was really bare bones, and there was a million mods and it
Oh
added
wait,
like
Dwarf
visuals and everything.
Fortress.
Yeah,
Oh,
Dwarf
I thought you
Fortress.
said Door Fortress.
No,
Okay, yeah, yeah, I know of this game. Yeah.
yeah, there's a Steam release of it now, which is great, and
Hmm.
it's a game that basically, um, it's kind of you can pretty much do anything in that game. It's really like ridiculously in depth, but it's one of those things where, and they've actually been really good about helping new players now with this like Steam release.
Hmm.
But still, it's one of those games where it's like it really feels like you need to watch like a 200 episode tutorial on how to play the game. Like you need to study how to play it, and it's just yeah, bounce. I don't know. I bounce off those kind of games, you know. Um, I do really have interest in playing it though. I really think I would have. It's a constant battle of like I think I would enjoy this, but also it's like a lot. It's like a second job.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any questions from the log of questions you want to ask me, or I could ask you another question?
Um, I had one. I just lost it. Give me a sec.
Ah,
Uh, let's see. Oh, here it is. What is the most frustrating video game that you've ever played?
oh, I think outside. So there's a genre of games that are like frustration games,
Hmm.
like Jump King and Getting Over It, and those kind of games. I don't think they
Yeah.
count because that's their intent. Um, I would say as a kid, Rayman One on PS1 was really frustrating because it was so hard for a kid. Like that game was too hard for kids to be playing. It's still really hard. I
Yeah.
mean, now I've played it so many times, I don't struggle with it at all. But it just was not. It seemed pretty like a rushed, at least on the PS1 version. It seems like
Hmm.
the play testing was limited and or rushed with that game. There are some jumps in that game that are like one of the jumps to get the cages is I believe I don't want to throw the term around, but I want to say frame perfect.
Hmm.
Um, there's a really tight jump that they must have done once. We're like, oh, it's okay. If you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. There's a jump on the rock area that's just like obnoxiously tight.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean that would definitely be one from childhood. I'm trying to think of like a frustrating game because you could take that in a lot of ways. You could take that as
Yeah.
like annoying or just like the game is hard. Do you have an example in mind while I think of other ones?
um. Yeah, I remember. So it was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the original one.
Hmm.
Um, and I think what was so frustrating about it, first of all, the map design wasn't great. There were lots of like, there were way too many angles you could get shot from, so you always just died randomly. Um, the gun balance was really bad, which was honestly standard for Modern Warfare back then. But oh man, like I think the worst part is it wasn't as broken as Modern Warfare 2, but it felt worse.
So it's like
And
Modern Warfare 2 was like everyone's OP. Modern Warfare 3
yeah,
was like everyone sucks.
and I think the absolute worst part of that game was the death streaks. So there was this death
I
streak
forgot
called
about
Dead
that.
Man's Hand, and what it was is everybody remembers like Last Stand and Final Stand in Call of Duty and how horrible both those were because it was like what is it? It was like there was something wrong with the way that you dropped where while you were dying you could shoot your regular gun like on the way
Hmm.
down. So lots of people just would end up trading because of that, and then the person would get rezzed, or they would. I think there was some versions where they could self res. Um, but Dead Man's Hand, you would get like knocked down, and you would have a C4 detonator in your hand, and you'd basically be like covered in C4. The AOE was ridiculous. It was colossal. So if you
Oh man.
killed somebody with Dead Man's Hand, they would blow up like literally. I would say if there were to be no buildings, it was about like a sixth of like the average map.
It's so
It
fun.
was
Just rewarding
colossal.
players for dying. We're not
Yeah,
rewarding, but like being like, oh, we'll get them back in the fight just by making it more annoying for everyone else.
yeah, it was insane. That was the game where they added support kill streaks, which I think were a fine idea. I think they were actually fine. I some of them were pretty cool. I liked them. The problem is you'd have people running around with support kill streaks in Dead Man's Hand, and they would just kill themselves repeatedly, and then you would just and they would just have like a score streak. Oh man, it was something else. Like the amount of times I threw my controller playing that game.
You know what? I think I may have a controversial partial take on another frustration in gaming. Um, I would say spoilers for Undertale. Minor spoilers in case you're living under a rock. But recently I did the Sans boss fight, which is supposed to be really hard and a final challenge, and it is really hard. Um, but actually, this also is kind of related to the Jad fight in old school RuneScape. I had very similar experiences with both these fights. It is a frustrating. It was rewarding to beat, but I wish I didn't have to spend as much time grinding to learn it that I did. I didn't think the like amount of time I spent on it was worth it. You know what I mean? I spent more time than I would have liked to learning the fight.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was the fact that it would be I would get through the frustration would come from both of these things where the challenge would be there would be one segment of the fight that would be new and then it would wipe you and you'd have to do that 5 times to learn it.
Hmm.
But that would come after a 10-minute segment. That would come after a 10-minute segment of doing something that's brain easy, very easy, like you've done it a
Yeah.
million times. And you would do that over the course, like at least with the Sans fight, pretty much every section of the fight would be okay. I'll do the whole fight over again, grind that one section. The one section would be like 15-10 seconds long, and but you'd have to replay 30 minutes of gameplay. Same thing with actually Hollow Knight, the DLC Godholm also does that,
Hmm.
where it's like do the easy stuff, master that 100 times to try the hard thing once, and I don't like that in games. I think Dark Souls, I like going to fight the boss, fighting it and learning is fun. I think fighting the 30-minute waste my time ads every time before the boss is not never fun. And that's in a lot of games.
Hmm.
Do you have any games that that are like that where it's like here's like you have to fight the first phase and it's like here's my final form, but you have to do that every single time?
And I felt that way sometimes with like Dark Souls, but
Mhm.
besides that, not really.
Yeah, I don't think Souls does it too bad.
I
I
think
think
what was that boss in Dark Souls 3 where it was like I think it was this guy that was fighting a bunch of clones of himself or something like that.
hmm.
And you walk into a arena and there's just like a pile of bodies everywhere.
You know what's so funny? Like Dark Souls 3, I just don't remember anything that happened in that game. There's a
I
big
think
skeleton.
I
I
think
remember
parts of them
that.
were like parts of his movesets were like references to Artorias.
Yeah, it's like oh wait, okay. Oh, I don't remember.
I'll just look up Dark Souls 3 bosses and I'll probably find them.
Yeah, I've played Dark Souls 3 several times and that game just doesn't stick in my head. It's really weird. Like I just have a gap. Like I probably should replay it soon.
Oh, it was Abyss Watchers.
Oh,
So
yeah, I remember that being kind of annoying.
yeah, so since Dark Souls 3 is my first Souls game, this was like the first boss I got stuck on.
Yeah, it's like a Four Kings remix, sort of.
Yeah,
No, that boss. Yeah, I think every Souls game kind of has the like multi boss that's supposed to be a progress blocker.
yeah,
Um, and like they have like a duo, whatever. It's just you need to learn how to fight it. Um, there's like sentinels, I think, in two. I don't know. You just have to. I think it's like a teachable moment where they teach you how to manage against several enemies and stuff.
yeah. Like I remember
Um,
when I was
mhm.
playing in Dark Souls 3, he was like my first major roadblock, and I think my second was Pontiff Sullivan. I remember the exact number to this day. I had to fight him 47 times before I beat
Oh
him.
my god, that's insane. Um,
Yeah,
actually, you know what? This has got me nostalgic. Shoutouts to the one absolute banger of Dark Souls 2, the Mira Knight boss fight. Um, Dark Souls 2 did do one thing right and have a ton of PvP stuff, which was fun. Being able to spawn in, dunk someone in their boss fight, and leave was very funny.
damn.
Half the time, Mira Knight would be summoning you and die anyway during the boss. But I used to stand outside that boss and just like wiped like teams of people with my builds in Dark Souls 2. That is Dark Souls 2, right? Mira Knight. It
Uh,
has to be.
not sure.
Yeah, DS2. Yeah, the Looking Glass Knight. He just
Hmm.
brings you into the game. You can invade people. Very fun. All right, we're over time though. We should call it a
Yes.
day. All right, who are you?
I'm James, aka James04E, aka uh that guy who has an X account but doesn't call it X.
And guess who I am?
No.
Oh, I'm Matt, aka Matt Dude, aka the guy who is now well, I'm playing some Flash games on Twitch. I'm Matt Dude on Twitch, and I bought a game called Fear and Hunger. Are you familiar with that game?
No, I don't think I am.
It's
Unfortunately.
it's an adult rated game on Steam, and there's a sequel, but it's like one of the rare adult rated games that isn't like kitty cat girl goes to the mall. Like it's actually like adult for content, but is a
Hmm.
real game.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a sequel that you can stream. It just came out. It's like a dark JRPG, roguelikey, whatever, very violent, nudity, etc. Problem
Hmm.
is, I think you were able to stream it on Twitch at one point, or it was a gray area. Now the game is like not listed on Twitch, but it's not explicitly banned. But I
Hmm.
guess there's too many giant dongs, as if you were playing Better Males of Skyrim. So you're not allowed
Damn.
to play it on Twitch. And we'll end on a dong note.
Sag.
Goodbye, everybody.
Dong.